Do your desert builds feel bland and lacking spice? Do you find yourself wondering where to begin when faced with one of the most barren biomes in the game? Well, welcome in everybody. I'm Earl3 and today I'm going to be showing you how to be doing your own survival-friendly desert town. And to do this, I'm going to be using Talisman and talking you all through the steps that I went through to build it. While this was filmed in creative, you can obtain all the materials in survival mode. Today I'll be time-lapsing through the building process and going into extra depth and detail on 4 different areas. Structures, detailing 4 of those structures, furnishings, and the other surrounding areas. If you're only interested in one of these things, skip forward to the timestamps that I've left in the video description. And with that all out of the way, let's jump into the walkthrough. Cue time-lapse music. First stage of your building was always going to be planning, so make sure you do it well. Here I'm using green, red and lime concrete to mark out the walls of where I want my buildings to go. When you do your building, feel free to use whatever colour of concrete you want and to mark out either the corners, the walls or the paths of the build that you're creating, but do make sure to mark out something, as in the long run I cannot stress enough how much it helps to have a solid ground plan. The next thing you'll want to do is make frames for your buildings. Now, I'm making mine out of chiseled sandstone and smooth sandstone. And again, while you can use any material that you think fits, I've chosen these materials because I think that they fit the oasis type build a little bit better than the alternatives of red sandstone. Here I've chosen a grid-like layout to the complex rather than diagonals to make it feel a little bit more compact. Now that you've put your materials down for the frame of the build, you'll want to consider what materials you're using for your walls. Now I'm using some very light materials here. I'm using smooth sandstone and birch stairs for the window frames. That kind of complements the materials I'm using for the frames, which is more sandstone. So if you've chosen another material for the frame, make sure it fits in with the build. Now we're on to the ceiling of the first floor, and you can see that I tried initially to use sandstone as a flooring material, but eventually replaced it out with shades of wood, birch and oak to be exact, because I felt like that complemented the build style a little better than adding in more sandstone, which of course we already have plenty of in the build. Next up, we're repeating the stage with the framing on the second floor of the build. Now this one is going to be slightly smaller and sit atop the first floor, so make sure you have all your framing in place because this is your planning stage of the second floor. Next up, we're going to be going onto the roof and the wall of the second floor. Now both of these are going to be using the same smooth sandstone design. As you can see here, I initially tried to use white concrete for the walls. Now you can do this if you so desire, but I felt that smooth sandstone was indeed the best way to go about it. After you've got your smooth sandstone in the roof and the walls, make sure you have some chiseled sandstone for the balconies and mark out those balconies with sandstone walls, half slabs and the chiseled sandstone. If you're feeling adventurous, you can add in a little bit of variation to the roofs where it meets the internal sections, and you can replace some of that smooth sandstone with upside down stairs. Right off the bat for detailing, we can see that buttons are being used on the outside of the build. Now, these are spruce buttons, and they're pretty useful for just giving a little bit of depth where there wasn't any before. Next up, we can create a hanging basket by using leaves and spruce trap doors placed around the leaves like this. Now we're also going to be adding in some potted plants here, as well as some more shrubbery like these overhead canopies that are going to be sheltering the balconies from the sun. After that, consider using fences of your choice to add in a little bit of structure. Now, this helps give depth to the otherwise flat walls of the exterior of the compound. In this case, I've used spruce wood, but again, material choice is entirely up to yourselves. So if birch, oak, or jungle wood fits your needs better, feel free to use it. Next up, we can start thinking about decorating the balconies that we've left untouched by any of the canopies. Now here, I'm going to be using some little berry bushes and putting in some trees here, maybe connecting them into a little canopy of itself. Adding to our already extensive use of spruce trapdoors, we're going to be putting some of them above doors that lead directly out into sunlight, for example balconies or walkways between the buildings on the second floor. Now this helps, along with the leaf canopies that we have, to create a sense that this place is lived in, as opposed to just being a dead space. Finally, take some time to go around the outside of the build with some leaves and some spruce fences, and that will finish up the detailing section of the build. As the interiors for each one of these houses are completely different from the last, I'm going to be showcasing 3 of my favourites to hopefully give you an idea of what kind of decorations we're putting on the inside, what kind of furnishings we're having on the interiors of these builds. So you can see here we're using a lot of barrels, a lot of different types of wood, and a lot of different kinds of decorations to spruce up the walls a little bit. Generally, your goal is going to be to make the walls the least flat that they can be while still maintaining a livable space. Generally, you're going to want to use quite warm materials to do this. For example, barrels, different kinds of wood, and different kinds of trap doors. Now in this third section, we can see here that I'm using trapdoors not as trapdoors, but instead as a way to put a ladder onto a bunk bed. Combined with the lighting and the use of the other types of wood, it gives a small but cozy feel to the little room that I've created. Finally, we'll move on to the restaurant. Now, if you can look past the war crime that I've just committed against rabbit kind, you might notice that I'm doing some interior decorating. Now, we're filling this hole with some stone, some slabs, and different kinds of stairs, and this is going to be an in-floor aquarium. So to decorate this in survival mode, you'll need to have some buckets and a tropical waters biome ready. Also, silk touch would not go amiss, as you will need that for the coral blocks. After the aquarium's gone in, we just fill out the chairs, the tables, and then we light everything up, making sure to fill in all the wall space that we need. Next up, we're going to be decorating the surroundings, which is going to be less about how we can make the complex look good and more about how we can add to it. Now in this case, I'm building a tower out of the same materials we're using for the rest of the houses, which is chiseled sandstone, smooth sandstone, birch stairs, and various types of spruce wood, combined with some shrubbery to make it fit in with the rest of the builds, and we get a lovely little tower like this. Next, we're going to be taking the little pond to the north of the town and deepening it into a lake. Now we put a little sandstone bridge over it, light it up, and decorate it up with red sandstone at the bottom. We can also throw in some coral and sea decorations, as well as some cacti, reeds, and palm trees around the side, to make it look that little bit more natural. Next, we can finally focus on this little section of red concrete that we sectioned out earlier, and this is going to be a stables on the outskirts of the town. Here we can see we're building it up in the same style as the rest of the buildings, as to not jut out and be juxtaposed to the rest of it. Remember, we're adding, not changing. Then to the side of town, we can expand this wheat field that we already made earlier, and we can expand it into different types of crops, adding in our own little walkways and paths as we desire. Next, we can start talking about landmarks, and while landmarks aren't something that town needs to survive, it's something that makes it more interesting and makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. Here, I've built some large triangular towers with a well in the centre, which almost look like horns sticking up from underneath the ground. Now from here on out, the main task is going to be decorating the scenery, which involves a little bit of terraforming and a little bit of dotting around different types of blocks, like coarse dirt, grass, and leaves. Here we can arrange stones and different types of crops around a pond, and if we zoom out a little bit more we can see that other little grass areas around the central lake can be decorated as well, to fill that little gap in visual effect. We can also use various types of trees for this. If we use trees, the overwhelming yellow of the desert sand is broken up a little bit by the green of the leaves on the trees, and helps it stand out a little bit more. Now from here on out, all we really need now is a wall, and this wall is going to be using the same design motif as the houses. The building materials we're going to be using are that same chiseled sandstone, smooth sandstone, and variations of the wood. For the top of the wall we're actually going to be using birch slabs and stairs, as this gives a light feel to it but sticks with the design motif. Next we'll be decorating the lake with docks, boats, fish, and other underseas decoration, such as coral. Again, if you don't have the good luck to find a wandering trader that sells coral to you, you might need Silk Touch for this part. And with that we are finally done, so let's zoom out and take a look at what we have created today. And there we have it, Talisman in its full glory. If you liked the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more content in the near future, and comment down below what I should be doing next. In the meantime, I hope you're all having a wonderful day and the rest of your day is wonderful too. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.